What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Minuteman Preparedness. If you're new here, go ahead, like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's get this information out to the masses. A lot of stuff we talk about here is preparedness for you, your family, and friends. We also discuss important news topics and actionable intelligence that a lot of the mainstream media won't cover because it's not glitz and glamour. A lot of it doesn't fit their narrative. So as usual, earlier today, I was scouting through X, looking at news and information, and our friends over at COMMANDELEVEN posted a post on their X account. Thought it was quite interesting, so I read through it, went online and checked the actual source to read through that. And I wanted to let you all know about it because I feel it's pretty important and it fits in a lot to the information we've been talking about if you've been following along here over the past few months through the intelligence tab that I have on the page about the homeland terror attacks and the threats to the homeland. So this is from the U.S. Secret Service. Matt McCool, he is the special agent in charge of the New York field office. Now, this information comes directly from the U.S. Secret Service's webpage. I'll have the link in the bio for that so you can read it for yourself. They also have right about a 3-minute video that Special Agent in charge Matt McCool put out. You always need to do your own reading, your own research. Don't just take my word for it or anybody else's word. You need to use your mind, gather intel, intelligence, news, read through it yourself, form your own conclusions. So, from the U.S. Secret Service, the U.S. Secret Service dismantled a network of electronic devices located throughout the New York tri-state area that were used to conduct multiple telecommunications related threats directed towards the U.S. government officials, which represented an immediate threat to the agency's protective operations. This protective intelligence investigation led to the discovery of more than 300 co-located SIM servers and 100,000 SIM cards across multiple sites. So the SIM cards are those little things that you have in your cell phone to make them operable. 100,000 of those and 300 co-located SIM servers across multiple sites. It's interesting. Gets you thinking. In addition to carrying out anonymous, telephonic threats, these devices could be used to conduct a wide range of telecommunications attacks. This includes disabling cell phone towers, enabling denial of service attacks, which there have been a handful of those across the United States, especially dealing with 911 systems, and facilitating anonymous encrypted communications between potential threat actors and criminal enterprises. A lot of this kind of sounds like something that would help somebody else with a large-scale homeland terrorist attack. Just saying. Let's slide down here a little bit. While forensics examination of these devices is ongoing, early analysis indicates cellular communications between nation-state threat actors and individuals that are known to federal law enforcement. Pretty interesting here. So here's a quote from Special Agent Matt McCool. It can take down cell phone towers, so then no longer people can communicate, right? You can't text, you can't use your cell phone. And if you could couple that with some sort of other event associated with the UNGA, which is the United Nations General Assembly, which if you don't know, the United Nations General Assembly building is in New York City. So the UNGA, use your imagination there. It could be catastrophic to the city. So these essentially sim server farms that were set up around 35, sites around 35 in the proximity of New York City, they could be utilized to shut down that whole cell system, take it off where whenever you go to dial 911 or use your cell phone, it would be inoperable. It gives you a lot to think about. And I was reading somewhere else. I thought I had it bookmarked. And of course, I don't have it bookmarked here. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see. Okay, here it is right here. The operation had the capacity. Now, this SIM operation had the capability of sending up to 30 million text messages a minute, a Special Agent McCool said. Now, also, this whole setup that they took down has to be well funded. This is not some sort of a cheap deal here, not cheap at all. Let's see, Special Agent McCool said he described it as a well-funded, highly organized enterprise, one that cost millions of dollars in hardware and SIM cards alone. Millions of dollars. Now, if you're just some wackadoodle that is trying to facilitate the assassination of some sort of government official, you're not going to have, several $1 million sitting around and the ability to gather all this hardware and put all this stuff together. Like I've said in many other videos myself, I'm not great with all of this type of stuff here. Phones and lighting and sound and editing and computers. And it's not my thing. It's hard for me to kind of grasp all of this stuff. And you would have to be a very wealthy and multifaceted individual to be able to handle something like that. And you're not going to be able to do it alone. You're going to have a group of people. And obviously, you're going to have some funding coming from somewhere. So it's fantastic that they were able, the FBI and not FBI, Secret Service, Homeland Security investigations. I can't remember if the FBI was involved in this. I know NYPD was involved in this investigation. Excuse me. But this was only one place where they've taken these down. Like I've said, these denial of service attacks have happened all over the place. So who knows how many of these, I don't know if server farm is the correct term for this, but SIM farm, whatever you want to call it, how many of these sites are across the United States? Because if there's one, there's got to be more than that. There's got to be more than one. Now, of course, that's speculation from myself. That's nothing official from anybody or any type of open source intelligence. That's just my thinking. If there's one, there's got to be more. And thankfully, they got this one. But whenever this homeland attack occurs, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And, myself, and like I've said in other videos, myself, COMMANDELEVEN, Sarah Adams, Survival Report, all the Apex Guard, American Kintex, a whole lot of people have been talking about this. And of course, I don't want to add myself into the person that's gathering this information because I'm not. I see this information gathered from other sources, and I want to put it out there to you all because a lot of this information flows through X. And if you don't have X, you're not really going to be able to get your hands on this unless somebody else, on YouTube is talking about it and you're subscribed to them. But, I don't see a whole lot of people on this YouTube platform talking about this information that I'm talking about, besides when Survival Report does their nightly brief, which is excellent. And you all, if you're not real quick, if you're not getting in on that information over at Survival Report, they do a live I want to say, at least 5 times a week. And they have Khalid over from Command 11. They have the group over at Survival Report, and they have several other people on there and some special guests, and Mike Glover and them on there discussing these different topics and things. If you're not going over to the Survival Report to get actionable intelligence and learn about what's going on, then something's going on with you, because you need to get over there. But I gather up all this information they're talking about, and I try to push it out to you all. I'm not some guy who's delving into all of these back rooms and stuff like that. I don't have the ability for that. I'm just putting out what they've put out, because I want you all to have it. Like I said, if you don't have access to X, if you don't follow that stuff, I want you all to know about this information. But this should let you know that there is stuff going on here. And this kind of falls back onto emergency communications. If you're relying on, if a bad situation occurs, if you're relying on that cell phone, if this type of situation occurs and they have those denial of service attacks happen on those cell towers, your phone's not going to work. I see a lot of people talking about like the LTE radios that use the SIM card and they piggyback off of cell towers. Now, a lot of the phones now operate on 5G, so you have to have a lot of towers in close proximity for 5G to operate, because that signal doesn't carry that far. 4G, you don't have to have towers as close, because that signal, the path of that signal could travel a little further. And I believe those LTE radios operate off of 4G. Now, if a cell tower goes down, I don't know if those radios would operate or not. They may or may not. But back to what I was getting to, if you're relying on that cell phone for emergency communications and this type of situation occurs, it may not work. Those LTE radios, they may work. I'm not 100% sure on that. So you need alternate forms of communications. You need things like GMRS radios. Now, simplex from radio to radio is not going to be super far. Excuse me, get myself worked up a little bit here. If you have GMRS repeaters that are close by, that's a completely different system than cell towers. You're going to be able to do a little something more with that. I've got some in my area where my signal's pushed out, 40, 50 plus miles radius, which is outstanding. You may also want to look into satellite comms, I've got some of those too, and we're going to do a video later on about that. But I want you all to be informed. This is a huge deal here. They've only taken down one. Who knows how many more of these could be sitting around, these $1 million plus operations with all of these SIM cards and being able to conduct denial of service, shutting down systems, and then allowing those individuals to have communications when you can't. This is important information. I'll have the link in the bio for the Secret Service page where you can look at this information for yourself. But I want you all to be informed. I want you to be prepared, because something is going to happen. So with that, you all stay safe. Have a great day. And Minuteman is out.